Something is happening right now that most people are experiencing personally, but nobody has named collectively. Therapy wait lists are years long. Trust in every major institution is at simultaneous historic lows. Spirituality searches have tripled in 4 years. Millions of people are quietly exiting lives that should have made them happy. Careers, relationships, belief systems they built their entire identity inside. The standard explanation is crisis, collective breakdown, things falling apart. That explanation is incomplete, because every ancient civilization that left a detailed cosmological map, Vedic, Hopi, Tibetan, Stoic, and others, described a moment that looks exactly like this. And not one of them called it a breakdown. They called it a transition. More specifically, they called it the necessary precondition for a collective frequency upgrade that cannot happen any other way. By the end of this video, you're going to understand the mechanism behind what is happening through morphic field science, ancient cosmology, and neuroscience simultaneously. And you're going to have a 5-step protocol that uses this moment as the specific catalyst it was always meant to be. This is the frequency architect. Let's decode. Chapter 1. Morphic fields. Consciousness as collective system. In the 1980s, biologist Rupert Sheldrake proposed something that the scientific establishment found deeply uncomfortable: that memory and behavior are not stored only in individual brains, but in a field, a morphic field that exists across organisms of the same type. His evidence was specific. When rats learned a new maze in one laboratory, rats in completely separate laboratories on the other side of the world learned the same maze faster, with no physical communication between them. The learning transferred through the field. This is not mainstream consensus science, but it is also not dismissed as easily as critics would like. The experimental data is real and has been replicated. What morphic field theory suggests for human consciousness is this: we are not just individual minds. We are nodes in a collective field. When enough nodes in that field shift their frequency, when a critical threshold is reached, the field itself shifts. And that shift is not gradual. It is a phase transition, like water reaching boiling point. The change happens not incrementally, but all at once. This is the mechanism behind what you are witnessing. Not millions of individuals independently having the same realization. One field reaching its threshold. The chaos is what a field looks like immediately before a phase transition, not breakdown. Preparation. Chapter 2. 5 traditions, 1 map. 5 traditions, 5 different languages, 1 description of this moment. Vedic, Kali Yuga. Transition. The Vedic cosmological cycle describes 4 ages: Satya, Treta, Dvapara, and Kali. We are in Kali Yuga, the final age, characterized by institutional corruption becoming visible, spiritual knowledge being suppressed, and mass disillusionment. But the Vedic texts are precise about what follows. Not destruction, but Satya Yuga, the age of truth. The darkness of Kali Yuga is not the end of the cycle. It is the pressure that produces the next one. You cannot have Satya Yuga without completing Kali Yuga first. Hopi, the Great Purification. The Hopi prophecy describes a moment they call the Great Purification, when everything that does not align with the true path is removed, not by external force, by its own internal incoherence. Systems that are not sustainable collapse under their own weight. The Great Purification was not meant to be feared. It was meant to be prepared for. The Hopi were given specific instructions about how to hold their frequency during the purification, so they could be present for what follows. Tibetan Bardo. The Tibetan concept of Bardo is a state between forms, between death and rebirth, between one identity and another. The Bardo teachings are not just about individual death. They describe the experience of being in transition, when the old form has dissolved and the new one has not yet appeared. The teaching: do not grasp for the old form. Do not fear the formlessness. The formlessness is where the new frequency is built. Stoic, Amor, Faty, Marcus Aurelius, and Epictetus did not describe a cosmological cycle. They described a personal operating principle for navigating collective turbulence. Amor Faty, love of fate. Not resignation, active embrace. The Stoic insight: the obstacle is the path. The turbulence is not something that happens to you. It is the specific material you need to build the version of yourself that the next chapter requires. Across all five, not one of these traditions described this moment as an ending. Every single one described it as a threshold. The chaos is not the problem. The chaos is the process. Chapter 3. The neuroscience of collective shift. Morphic field theory is Sheldrake's framework. But conventional neuroscience offers its own window into what happens to individual nervous systems during collective turbulence. When the environment becomes destabilized, when the external systems that provided identity anchors are no longer reliable, the brain enters a state of heightened neuroplasticity. The old neural architecture becomes less rigid. New pathways become easier to form. This is uncomfortable. It is meant to be. Neuroplasticity under stress is the brain's mechanism for adapting to genuinely new conditions. The discomfort is the process of rewiring happening in real time. The nervous system's role in this is critical. A dysregulated nervous system, stuck in chronic stress, hypervigilance, threat detection, cannot access the neuroplasticity that collective transition offers. It spends all its available energy defending the old architecture instead of building the new one. A regulated nervous system, anchored in vagal coherence, in the ventral vagal state of genuine safety, can use the same collective turbulence as an accelerant for its own transformation. This is the physiological reason why the personal frequency protocol matters, not as spiritual bypassing, as biological strategy. Your nervous system's regulatory state determines whether collective turbulence breaks you down or builds you up. Chapter 4. The Frequency Anchor Protocol. 5 steps, grounded in everything we've decoded today. Use this now, not when things calm down. Things will not calm down first. This is for now. Step 1. Release the old pattern. Identify the specific system, identity, or belief structure you have been trying to keep stable. Name it exactly, not vaguely, the specific thing. Then ask, is this completing, or am I forcing it to continue? If it is completing, release it consciously. The energy you are using to stabilize what is ending is the energy you need for what is beginning. Step 2. Regulate first. Before any spiritual practice, any visualization, any intention setting, regulate your nervous system. Extended exhale breathing. 4 counts in, 8 counts out. 3 minutes minimum. This is not optional preparation. This is the practice. A dysregulated nervous system cannot hold new frequency. Regulation is the foundation everything else is built on. Step 3. Identify your anchor. Frequency. From the regulated state, ask, what does the version of me that thrives in what comes next feel like? Not look like, not have. Feel like. One word if possible. Expansive, clear, rooted. Find the felt sense in your body. Here is what none of these traditions and none of the science has fully explained. Why do collective awakening waves happen simultaneously? Why do people with no contact, no shared media, no common language arrive at the same frequency shift at the same time? Sheldrake's morphic field is a framework, not a mechanism. The Vedic rishis described the cycle, but not the engine behind it. The Hopi prophets knew the timing, but not the physics. Something coordinates collective frequency transitions across disconnected individuals. We can observe it. We cannot yet fully explain it. That gap is real, and it matters, because it means that what you do with your personal frequency right now may be contributing to something larger than you can currently measure. Hold your frequency, not for yourself alone. Drop architect in the comments if this decode gave you a framework for what you've been feeling. I read every single one. Next week, the specific neuroscience of why some people emerge from collective turbulence more expanded and others more contracted, and the single variable that determines which one you become. Subscribe if this is the content you've been looking for. You are the architect of your own frequency,